Let me turn off my focus here. Hello, hello, everyone out there. This is Andrea with From Mrs. to Ms. I have a wonderful guest with us today. Her name is Chantal Landreville, and I'm so excited to have you. Thank you for joining me.
I'm excited to finally be here. This has been a long time coming.
It has. You and I have gone back and forth trying to get down dates and talking about when we could do this and that. And I've moved you. I mean, you've been really great about that. Let me tell you.
It's worth it. Today's the day.
Today is the day. We were meant to do this today. So we are good with this. So Chantal is an author and a certified love and relationship coach with more than 2 decades of experience in personal growth and human connection. After her own challenging 15-year journey to love, she realized that the world needed a new perspective on love, don't we? And relationships, which prompted her to write her transformative book, which we're going to talk about later. She is here to disrupt and change our perspective on what we've been taught about love so far, which is very, I love this, Disney-fied or rom-commed. We are in love with the idea of being in love. You hit the nail on the head there. That kind of love is not enough to sustain a long-term relationship. I love this topic because I think that is a lot of where we're at. We're just so in love. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. The thought of love. I love the rom-coms. I love the movies, and they have set me up for failure.
Of course, all of us, all of us.
Yes.
It's the only thing that we see, and still until today, it's the only thing that we see on TV, on networks, on everything.
Mm-hmm. And it just happens so easily. And it's always the best looking guy. And he has a job and he knows how to dress. I mean, he's got all of the key things. And then we go out and then we're like, wah, wah, what happened here?
Exactly. The black cloud over the sunshine. It's like, yes.
So totally. Let's start at the beginning. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and maybe talk about your 15-year journey to love and how you fell into this career path.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. So let's try to make my long story short.
Yeah.
So I was always fascinated with love, dating, and relationships. Like I don't know why. I was just always really curious to see how people showed up in relationship. And this from my early 20s. And I was in a long-term relationship from 19 to about 26. I was living in Ottawa. I moved to the big city of Montreal. I met a gentleman that was 7 years older than I was and introduced me to, wine, food, culture, and everything. So I was this little girl, coming in of a small town and just like, so my way of looking up to him was literally looking up to him. And when I started sitting into my personality more in my relationship and really starting to take my own space, I realized that it was a problem for him. He saw me as a competition. And at one point I was like, wow, okay, this is a problem. And I mean, for him, it was very clear. He wanted to have children together, get married and, build a life together.
But and he liked you looking up to him, right? He liked you in that role.
100%. It was just, so when the dynamic of the relationship changed, I realized, I can't be with someone that doesn't let me be me and sees me as a threat in my own relationship. So I left the relationship. And when I left the relationship, because I had been a very young adult or a young person living a very older adult life is what I should say. I said, you know what? I want to experience things in life before I go back into settling into something else. So I wrote this long list of things I wanted to do that actually ended up taking me 10 years to go through.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm a yes person. I love to try and dabble in everything at least once to just experience it. And in when I started dating on the market again, my roommate at the time and I decided to do this documentary about how people would actually navigate through dating, because I was struggling, she was struggling, most of my girlfriends were all struggling. So we're like, let's try to figure this shit out. And we just couldn't do it. She ended up getting sick, so we had to put the documentary on the side. But I was still very fascinated with everything that was called self-development, personal growth. So behind the scenes, I was consuming all of this stuff to try to learn. So when I finally when I turned 38, 10 years later, I was like, oh, okay, it's been 10 years, like enough of partying and, spreading my wings everywhere.
Right.
Like I want to settle down and meet somebody serious. And that's when my journey started to a whole other level, because I realized that I could not seem to attract anyone that was emotionally available for me. I was the girl that
Wow.
was really good at attracting married men, younger guys, really great at long distance relationship,
Wow.
and being the girl that they would leave and then get married, have the kid. Like I was always that girl
Oh,
right
right
before. So
before.
you're just like,
Yeah.
what the hell is wrong with me? You just
Right.
start really, and then I would hear from everybody around me, I don't understand why you're still single. You're beautiful, you're smart, you're outgoing. Like, what is the issue? And of course, you start asking yourself the question, like, what is
Yeah.
actually wrong with me?
Yeah. You start looking at yourself. Yeah.
And I started diving in a dark place. So I went through a mini depression, which today I think was
Mm.
a godsend, because it really got me into a place of self-reflecting
Hmm.
and self-awareness. So here's the thing I want to share is that because I was over consuming personal development and
Yes.
to know it, I was reading everything about it, but I wasn't applying it. And when I turned, to trying to figure out, okay, like obviously there is a problem. I need to
Yeah.
dive deeper into this. And I started going deeper into the inner work. I realized that I needed to apply a lot of these things that I had been learning that I never took the time to
Mm.
do. And that's where the work lies, is applying the work, that all the stuff that you learn. You can be listening to this podcast, getting all the free advice that you can possibly get, but if you
Yeah.
don't actually finally apply some of that work to you, it's not going to pay off in any shape or form.
Yeah. Huge
So
statement. Mhm.
I actually moved to Toronto 8 years ago, and I decided I always knew I wanted to teach, but I couldn't figure it out. So I took my coaching certification, and I realized, yes, but not really. I felt I still needed to learn a few things myself, including patience, empathy for other people, because everybody has their own journey.
Yes.
And as a coach, it's like you have to let people through their own journey. You can't tell
Yeah.
them what to do. So when I finally did meet and attract my amazing man today, that we got engaged
Ooh,
about a month
I know.
ago.
I saw your hand waving around there. I'm like, where? Let's see where she's at. A month ago? This just happened a month ago?
Yeah, just
Oh,
a month ago. Yes.
yay.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. A couple.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a good start to the year, book launch
Yeah.
and engagement. So I realized that, it's one thing to attract the right partner. Like already
Yeah.
that journey in itself is really difficult, but
Hmm.
making sure you can actually set yourself up for success to succeed in a relationship is a whole other thing. And we've never
Mm.
been taught those skills. It's
Yes.
like, it's like even being a parent. Nobody teaches you how to become a parent. You're just
No.
winging it and going with, your own personal experiences,
Yep.
good, bad, and
Mother's intuition is just supposed to kick in.
correct. And it's
Yes.
not everybody has that, even
Yeah.
though, I would say some have it more than others.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, okay, there's something here. Thank God I learned everything I learned, because now not only I attracted the right person, but I can actually make sure that I can hold my relationship and my partner to high standards in our relationship. Because I didn't
Mm.
want to experience a relationship. And this was very clear when we met, like the average person out there.
Yeah. You wanted
So,
more.
and this takes work and investment and, you know, some fundamentals that we'll talk about a little bit later in our conversation.
Yeah.
So when COVID happened, this was a COVID baby. I used to be in the wine business. So hence also why I think I was always fascinated with human behavior and trying to understand. Being in sales, I developed a skills that was listening to people and being curious about
Yes.
people. And
That's so
when you do
true.
have great listening skills and you're curious about someone, people will literally vomit their lives to you.
Yeah. Wow.
So I would become a natural confident and share a lot of the stuff I learned for them to whatever it was that they were sharing. And they were
Mhm.
like, thank you for that. I needed to hear this, or I didn't know about that. So I was like, okay, there's something here that I feel that I can bring to the table. And I realized that because I had overconsumed, I knew a lot of stuff.
Mm.
Hence the
You're like,
book.
wait a second.
Exactly. Hence the book,
Yes.
is literally, which is, raise your love signal, a guide to attracting and keeping the love of your life, because it's what we all want.
Yes.
I fought with the subtitle because it was like, isn't it tacky? And I was like, no, it's what we all want. We want
It
to
is.
find our person and we want to stay with our person.
Hands down.
So I literally, it's everything I learned over the course of 20 years and the hundreds of thousands of dollars it cost me, because there was always, I would always spend money to invest in myself. And so it's the best of, and no matter where you are in your journey to love, whether you're still single, whether you're in a relationship, you can pick up a lot of stuff. So it's like, that's why I call it a guide. It's an easy ride, an easy ride, an easy ride.
We are all looking for the easy ride.
I know, and there's no
Speaking
easy
of
ride.
men.
I love that. So that's kind of my journey in a short nutshell. But I just want to tell people that are still single and looking for love. I mean, love finally came to me when I was almost 45 years old, and we've been together for 5 years now. And when knowing what I know today and how I talk about what love is in this book and a different perspective of it, it was worth every ounce of the journey to get here. And I just want to say to people, don't get discouraged. You just need to apply and do things differently, and kind of explore a different perspective, which we'll talk about.
Absolutely. And that is the catch right there, is actually applying it. Because I think we can all do that. And there's so much information out there on Instagram, on Facebook. I felt the same way. Like I'm looking here and I'm looking here. And then you're almost getting, because everybody's going to see things a different way. And then I found myself going, oh, well, yeah, I should do it that way. Oh, well, wait a second, I should do it that way, and then I just had all of the information, and like you, wasn't applying it. It was just kind of sitting there, and I felt like I was doing the work by just bringing it all to me, but not actually applying it. So how did you, I want to talk about your little engagement here first before I move on. So, okay, wait, how did you meet him then?
We actually met on a dating app, on Hinge, believe it or not.
Everybody listening out there, because we have talked some shit about the dating apps, let me tell you. So, and it's true. A lot of people, it's a hit or miss. So I've met a couple of great guys on Hinge, didn't work out, but tell us, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for them to hear this, to hear there's hope with the dating apps. Listen up, peeps.
Absolutely is. And I want to just go back to a second to what you said about over consuming, and like, there's so much information out there. I was actually at a relationship summit this weekend, and there's a woman that's a dating coach that does the science. So it's like all database. And she was saying that, when you look up the hashtag dating advice, there's like, I don't remember the number, but there's like so much, but there's a lot of shit out there from not a lot of people that know or give the proper information.
They don't know what they're doing.
Yes. Hence why the book for me was important, because it's the real stuff. If you're looking for what I'm going to talk about today, not the rom-com Disneyfied, and that's a whole other thing. So we met, as I was saying, I was single for I was going on my 16th year, so massively frustrated. So I've experienced.
So 16th year is single, but like, were you just not dating at all, or you were just kind of dabbling here and there, but nothing lasting? Okay.
Dabbling. And as I said earlier, I was really good at attracting these meaningless relationships. So men that were already taken, young boys, long distance relationship. And, this is when I realized I was actually my own problem. The subconscious mind, when I finally understood why that was happening to me. Because if things keep happening to you, you need to understand, okay, I'm the common denominator here. What am I doing wrong? And when I say wrong, it's not negative. It's just really diving deeper to understand, what is my pattern? What is my belief system? Mine was that men abandoned me because I lost my father when I was very young.
Oh, wow.
So when I realized that, and the impact it had on my subconscious mind, that my inner little girl of 2 years, where it was a way for me to protect myself, stay in control, because you are going to leave me at one given point. So when you actually understand the root of that and how deep it goes, then you're like, oh, wow, how can I rewire my brain for something I've been doing at this point was 38, 39 years of my life.
Yeah.
So when you identify the root to the problem, it's much more easier to find to actually focus on the solution. So I worked on that. It took me a very long time to change that mindset, but
Mhm.
through those dating, I decided to date differently. And this is what I
Okay.
want people to remember, because everything I had done prior to understanding why I was showing up or not in relationship because of that subconscious belief had to change. I had to have a different approach. And
Mhm.
this is what I did when I met Jeff. I
Yeah.
I was with, because I work with a lot of different healers, modalities, and my naturopath, I call her my witch. She had suggested, Hinge had just literally come out. It was one of the latest dating apps. And she's
Yeah.
like, why don't you try it? You know, I find the pool of men is higher quality. And I was like, no way. I've been on them. I refuse it. I want to meet someone organically. You know, as
Yes.
we all have
We
said it
all
many
do.
times.
Yes.
And I went home and I said, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And I did. So I was very intentional for the first time on how I would actually not only create my profile, but how I would select men on their profiles and how I
Mm.
would read through their profiles. And here's the thing with online dating
Mhm.
is that we experience a lot of what I call dating burnout because we spread ourselves. We don't take the time to properly filter, and we limit ourselves with what is out there. You know, this girl
Mhm.
that I was talking about, she was saying that for example, height oftentimes for women is important. So if you
Me.
decide to 6 feet and up, well, 6 feet and up is 14% of the US population.
Yeah.
So you are just limiting
Yeah.
yourself to such a small pool of people that are out there. And this is
Yes.
just with height. I was like, holy
Oh, yeah. I know. I realized this just recently. I was talking about this on another episode. Exact same thing. Cause I do that. I'm 5'9". So I like someone taller. And I was setting it at 6 foot. And he was like, do you know? And I'm like, oh. And by the time we came down to it, I'm like, well, no wonder mine comes up and says, we've run out of people to show you.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the one piece of advice she had given me that I'm so thankful she has, she's like, you need to start um, looking at people from a different angle than what you've been doing. So, you
Mm.
know, I always say and I talk about this in the book, there's a massive difference between what we think we want,
Mhm.
what we actually attract, and
Mm.
what is actually right for us. And we tend to spend time, it's that triangle. We tend to
Yeah.
spend time in the what we think we want and what we attract, and not focus
Mhm.
on what's really right for us. So I had, you know, I'm a type A, so I was always attracted to type A bad boys, you know,
Yeah.
very
Me
the
too.
same. And she said, Start looking at men that are a little bit more feminine in their look instead of that rugged, sexy, wild beast." And I was like, okay.
But I don't want
I know, right?
to.
Because I thought that was my type.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized that I was limiting myself. And I'll share another story that I find is really important. That was because I love to say I always practice what I teach and eat a piece
Yes.
of my own humble pie. I was going to a party one night in 2018, and 2018 was a very significant year because I always wanted to move to Europe. I was trying to figure out where, and I said, the man of my dreams is over there. He's not here in Canada. He's not here in the US.
Mm.
I need to go there, and I need to, and I did. I went abroad for 2 months, and I had this mission of meeting the man of my life.
Yeah.
And I did. Well, I thought I
You
did.
thought you did.
And I
That
really
was
got,
your purpose for going there, was to
that
find your
was
person.
my, yes.
Wow. That's
So
massive.
be
Okay.
careful what you call in.
Yeah.
But here's what happened. I got caught up in the whole fantasy and the rom-com and the Disney-fied thing. And I'm saying this because I had been in the background studying this stuff, working
Mm.
on this stuff, and I still got
Still got
caught
caught
up
up.
in that
Yeah.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Every bone in my body was telling me that it wasn't the right thing. I would, like, red flags were coming up constantly, but I chose to ignore them and just
Mhm.
like, no, this is such a beautiful story. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And when it didn't work out, I was shattered, like everything
Yeah.
shattered in me. And I was like, I can't believe it. Like, like, what more can I do? I
Yeah.
just don't get it. And after being in this dark place cave for 2 weeks, crying myself and feeling like, poor me, my friend called me and was like, enough. Like, well, I'm taking you out tonight. We're going to a restaurant opening. I get dressed. So I did. I said, I'm going to put my best dress on, red lipstick, curl my hair. And I said, I'm
Yeah.
going to talk to every single guy that has a good conversation. Because at this
Ooh.
point, conversation for me was a value
Yeah.
item on my list, on my checklist. It wasn't the glitz and glam and looks. It was about fundamental great conversation. And what do you have to say? Not what do you have to show?
Yes.
So I always thought I wasn't attracted to certain types of men. And that night I ended up having 3 amazing conversations with 3 types of men I typically would have never given the time of day to. And one of them
Wow.
ended up being a great adventure that gave me the last piece of the puzzle before I met Jeff 4 months later.
Wow.
So I remember coming back in that cab that night and telling myself, oh my God, look at what you have been limiting yourself to what
Yeah.
you think you want versus
Yeah.
what's actually out there. So if you're
Wow.
going to be online dating,
Mm-hmm.
open the valves of different,
Mm.
think differently, expand what you think you want versus what's out there. And that's why it's important to do or figure out what it is that you actually need in
Yep.
relationship, not want, because I talk about this in the book of knowing the differences between want and
Yeah.
needs
Yeah.
and getting clear on not only what you want from a partner, but how do you want to grow and evolve in a relationship? And oftentimes these needs and wants are very, very different.
Yes.
They're more like value systems. They're more like deal breakers where it's like, it's almost like water or air. You can't live without, you can't compromise those things versus I
Mm-hmm.
want someone that's good looking, that's 6 feet, that knows how to cook, that's financially well off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you want him to treat you? How do you want him to show up for you when things are not going smooth and you're struggling with something at work or having financial difficulties? How do you want him to
Yeah.
listen and process in conflict? Very, very different questions to ask. So
Yes.
it just takes the conversation deeper
Yeah.
and gives you broader perspective on what really matters versus the initial physical and
Yes. We're all looking at
excitement that we do when we
the
meet someone.
butterflies and yeah, we're looking
Exactly.
for that.
Exactly. So when I saw Jeff on the dating app, the first thing that I saw was his eyes. Like one, he had professional pictures taken. So I was like, wow, this is a guy that actually gives a
Made
shit
effort. Yep.
or is really egotistical. I was just
Which
like, but
one?
there was, yeah, I know, right? But there was something in his eyes. I could tell he was a humble, good man. Like,
Yeah.
so I sent him a message. It took him over 2 weeks to reply to me. So, and he was an older man. I always wanted to date older men, but I
Okay.
never seemed to attract them. And I was like, okay, well, I tried, but
Yeah.
I guess I don't
Didn't work.
attract them.
Yeah.
But, and this is also something is that I want to say is that I created inner chat. I had decided and oh, I guess I do not attract him. Meanwhile, he's
Mm.
just busy at work
Right.
and is not on the apps on a
Yes.
daily basis.
Yes.
And finally answers 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And here we are 5 years
Oh
later, and
my
that's all it
gosh.
took. So I think when we talk about dating apps, it's still one out of 4, how every 1 out of 4 people meet today and connect. It gives you such a wider
Wow.
pool of accessibility to
Yep.
people you probably would have never had a chance to meet if you were stuck in your own city, not
Yep.
traveling and just. So you just need to change your approach to it
Yeah.
and be very selective of who you choose, how you filter, how you ask the
Mm.
proper questions, and especially avoid that texting game that can
Oh
last
gosh.
for weeks and weeks.
Yes.
And this is one of the things I talk about in the book is like filter so quickly before you even give your time to someone in person, have a
Yes.
phone conversation.
Mm.
Don't do that endless date texting game, because here's what happens, especially us as a woman.
Yeah.
We love to create these scenarios in our head, because this is also the thing that happens. And I was the queen of that. I'm dating on a purpose.
Yep.
I'm dating on a purpose of having an outcome. Is he the one? Could he be the one?
Mm.
Oh my God, maybe he's my person.
I feel like I'm there.
Versus, right?
I feel like that's me right now.
Well, and it's so much pressure, not only
Yeah.
on yourself, but on a person you haven't even met yet.
Yes. Yes.
So you're
That
just
is
like,
such a great point. We're so caught up on something we don't even know we want. We don't, we're so like
exactly.
thinking, oh, it's crazy. Okay, go
Yes.
on.
So it's important to read profiles properly,
Mm-hmm.
exchange a short series of texts and say, let's plan a phone call, and even better, a video call, because look at us, we're looking at each other. I can pick up a lot of your energy, learn to read
Yeah.
in between the lines, see your body language. So I can physically see if I'm attracted to you as well before we even set up on a, go out
Are
on
you
a date.
attracted to me, Chantal? Is that what you're saying right now?
I am. I'm so attracted to
She's
you.
letting it out, you guys. I found my match.
Hey, girl.
Hi, girl. See, something we didn't know we even wanted.
Exactly. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, that's so funny. But you're so right. That is so right, of those little things. And I love that you're saying those little pointers of things for them to look for, because that is, I think, the hardest part. And we tend to just get caught up in it. And we tend to, I know I'm very guilty if I look at the picture and I'm like, oh, he's cute. Swipe, swipe,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not even really looking at what he's saying he wants. Is he, you can tell sometimes when somebody's just emotionally unavailable, right? And
Yes.
what they're saying, they put it right out there. I don't have a lot of time for you, but I'm willing to squeeze you in.
Yeah.
They'll say things like that, or they're looking for, I think even on some, they have a tab for non-monogamous relationship. I mean, those should be your little hints that, maybe not right for you if you're looking for something serious.
Yeah, and I think we all need to take more ownership. Like if I think back of when I was single and dating out there and being frustrated and blaming other people, and men have such bad behaviors and blah
Yeah.
blah blah, and telling all these stories, is that it starts with us. How do
Yeah.
you act yourself, and
Mhm.
how do you hold yourself accountable, knowing what you're reading? But we often choose to say, I'll still try.
Yes.
Or it's
I
okay,
can
maybe
fix
I
him.
can change him. I can, yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big
Screw
one.
that.
Yeah. Right.
And so here's what this means. This is a lack of self-love for yourself, because you
Yeah.
are disrespecting who you are and your
Mhm.
own needs to maybe please and maybe be liked. And that's not the right
Mhm.
reason you want to be in a relationship. So
Right.
right there, take ownership and get to know yourself so well that you do not compromise what
Yeah.
you are looking for and what you personally need and
Mhm.
require. And I would say that we also need to not be shy to tell people when there is bad behavior. For
Yeah.
example, if a guy is sending you like already asking you for naked pictures and you haven't even met, because I hear this all the time. It's like, you
Gross.
know what? Listen, I'm not into that. And if that's what you're looking for, you need to move on. So you need to just call people out on their bullshit. You don't need to
Yeah.
be rude. You don't need
Yep.
to be mean. You just stick for where you are, what you
Yeah.
need, and
What you're
voice
looking
your
for.
voice. Yeah, voice your voice. So we all need to take ownership on our own behaviors,
Yeah.
on how we want to be treated, and how we want to treat others online as well.
Yeah.
So, but it starts with ourselves.
It does. And it's funny, I was doing a little, my girlfriend likes to, she's just a friendless girl, but she likes to do a lot of experiments. She calls them her little social experiments, And so she's always on me. If I'm on a dating site and I'm kind of telling her, you said this, and she's like, she's in the place where she knows, no way is he going to get away with that. Say this back, and a big
Yeah.
thing for me is when they're not reciprocating with questions at all. It's very
Yeah.
much like I can ask a question, they answer it. And then you're just like crickets, it's just disappointing to me, because we're looking to have a conversation and you can feel it already. So I have my own little 3-question rule. If they don't respond, asking me a question, which to me is so simple, to just say, what about you? How do you, anything, what do you like to do? It's so simple. And we just actually were having fun with that last night, because exactly that, on a dating site, we were playing around and I messaged this guy and he's just like, I'm like, oh, so how long have you lived so-and-so? And he's like, oh, I don't anymore. I live here. And I'm like, okay. So why did you move there? Do you have family there? How do you like it? No family here, but I do love it. And I go, I'm done. I said, I'm out already. Yeah. And she goes, why not just respond and say, feel free to ask me any questions, with a little wink and a little wink emoji, that shows you're a little playful, but you're being a little assertive. Like, and I did. And then he came back and he was like, of course, like, what do you like to do for fun? What do and that started to get it. Sometimes people just need to be nudged a little and they don't even realize what they're doing. Some you can't help.
Well, and I love that you brought that up, because I've come to realize, you know, we really have high expectations of people we don't even know yet. And we want
Yes.
them to treat us in a way because we are this way. So we
Yeah.
have that expectation. But that's why I'm saying how important it is to call people out on their shit and how they act or react, because some people might not even realize that they're
Mhm.
doing that, as you
Mhm.
did with the guy. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. It's just like, that's why I say, don't be afraid to say what it is. It's just in the way you actually say it. So there's
Yes.
ways of saying things that are really gentle and nice and but straight to the point.
Yeah.
And that will give, because maybe somebody's introverted, maybe somebody's
Yeah.
shy, maybe, and I want to say this as well, because when Jeff and I started dating, when we would speak on the phone,
Mhm.
so nice and calm, and the conversation was great. And, you know, he would always ask me questions, and on text, dry,
Nothing.
bone dry. And I remember having lunch with a girlfriend at one point, telling her, like, it's really frustrating me. And I actually think I was like gonna on the verge of like letting this thing go. And she's like,
Yeah.
why don't you just tell him that you don't like the way he texts and asks you to call him? And I was
Yes.
like,
Oh.
well, there's an idea. But it's as simple as that. Ask for
Yes.
what you want and what you need.
Right.
And I did. And I said, listen, do you mind if when we connect, I'd prefer that we do it over phone call? He's like, well, I actually prefer that too. He goes, I'm
Yeah.
not a really great texter.
Ah. You're like, I know. So thank
Yeah.
you.
So, you know, and it's really important. So we didn't talk about self-awareness. And this is something for me is like I'm going to answer that question at the end of the podcast. But if you are clear on what you're looking for example, so hence why I talk about getting clear on what you want and need, understanding the difference between the two from a partner and a relationship, this is what happens. And you know your why behind the want or the need.
Okay.
So in my case, example, you know, texting, dry, I need you to call me.
Mhm.
Because of how it made me feel. And when you
Yes.
know why you want something, so it bothered me that it was so dry. I feel
Felt disconnected.
disconnected. I
Mhm.
didn't feel important. I felt like I was just another person. So
Mhm.
I can actually voice that. And
Mhm.
simply asking, you don't not always need to go and explain it to this person, especially not
Yes.
to men. Men are like, it's easy, right? Women will have like
Oh.
a whole paragraph to explain ourselves. Men is like, okay,
Okay, I
no
can do
problem.
that.
This is what you need. Offer the solution of what you actually need. That's it.
Yeah.
I just need you to call me because I'm old school. I prefer perfect. That's
Oh
it.
my
The
gosh.
end. So no, when you are out there dating and you're being triggered or reactive because you feel like, why am I not getting what I want?
Mhm.
And I would need this, ask yourself the why behind the need. Why do
Yeah.
I need this? Why is this important to me? So you can actually be clear on it, make sure it's for the right reasons. And it's
Mhm.
often about you, not about the other person, because we
Mhm.
project, right? We project
Mhm.
ourselves on, so, or you might be, I don't know, an anxious attachment style. And, you know, if you feel that there's no consistency, it's getting you
Mhm.
nervous, and the person is maybe not into
They're not
you.
doing
It's
it
just their
too.
behavior and it's
Yeah.
triggering your anxiety. So then you're like, you can self-soothe because, oh yeah, this is why I react this way. It has
Yes.
nothing to do with him. And then I can actually voice my concern eventually
Yeah.
and say, you know what, I just so you know, I'm an anxious attachment style. When there's no consistency for me, it triggers me. So is there any way that we can work on getting consistent together? It's a much
Yeah.
different conversation
I
than
love
saying, why
that.
didn't you text me? Why didn't you do this? Or you get all this like negative inner chat in your head, and you
Yeah.
start creating these stories that don't even exist.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. We're two people coming together with our baggage. Everybody has their own baggage. Whether
Yeah.
you've worked on it or not, there's
Yeah.
always an extra layer to peel. And there's no better container than in relationship to actually grow, heal, learn, and be
I
faced with
love
the
that.
things that we still need to work on. But here
Yeah.
is the thing that's happening out there is that as much as we desire human deep connections and we want to be in
Mhm.
love, there's a disconnect where we're coming in with our baggage and we have all these expectations from strangers, people we don't even know. And even when you start dating, you don't know someone in 2 or 3 months. I'm still learning tons with
Yes.
my fiance, and we're 5 years in.
Yes.
But we need to create a space. And the only way to do that is investing time,
Mhm.
being curious,
Mhm.
and creating a safe space so someone can actually voice and
Ah,
share. And this is where we're lacking in the dating world. And I
yeah.
retake that to, again, taking ownership ourselves. How do you show up? Are
Hmm.
you interested? Are you curious? Are you creating and making time for someone to actually be able to share and express and feel vulnerable?
Mm.
And the best example I can give to that, because when I realized that, I was like, how could I actually explain this to clients? Is like, how do I invest time with strangers or somebody I
Hmm.
don't even know? And I was actually at a retreat in Maui in January, and here I am for 3 days with 8 other people that I've never met in my life.
Yeah.
But there was the common denominator where we invested time, we
Yep.
created a safe space, we were very curious about each other. I
Hmm.
ended up learning stuff about these 8 other people that they probably never shared in their own inner circle of
Wow.
friends.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, wow, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I continued the investigation, because I always like to investigate my own thoughts. I was at a
Uh-huh.
dinner for entrepreneurs and in different segments, not just in romantic relationships, and knew none of these 12 strangers. And I ended up having, and we couldn't say what we were doing in life for the first hour, which I thought was great. So
Ooh,
the
that's
art of
interesting.
creating intentional
Yeah.
conversations and getting curious about people. And
Hmm.
again, I left that night having unbelievable conversation, very, very meaningful and intentional conversations, and making great connections with people I didn't even know, I had never met, and that
Amazing.
we're still in touch today.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like, stop blaming it on others and ask yourself,
Yeah.
how am I showing up and how would I like somebody else to show up for me? But we need to start doing that in our own ways. And we
Yeah.
also need to be able to share those thoughts with other people. And
Yeah.
if you can't have that conversation with someone from the beginning, why are you wasting your time?
Right.
If someone is emotionally unavailable to have these kinds of conversation and that's what's important to you, why are you
Why are you
staying? Why are you giving your
Yes.
time to this person?
Great point. And I think a lot of that also comes to, people learning about themselves and knowing their love languages, knowing those attachment styles that you're referring to. And I've talked about these in many previous episodes. We've done episodes on love languages and attachment style because
Good.
I know I lead with love languages. I know for me, it's quality time and physical touch.
Yes.
And I've said many times that you can think it's going to work if somebody's not on the same with you, maybe one off, and it could there. But I did
Yeah.
date somebody that, physical touch is top for me. It was bottom for him. And I felt consistently like he wasn't into me. He wasn't attracted to me. I felt rejected because he wasn't like touching me until I
Mhm.
finally started to get a little healthier. And I was like, you know what? He's just not thinking about it. It's not important to him. And that's
Yeah.
why those things have to match up, because it is important to me. So it's not that he was intentionally avoiding me, rejecting me, doing all these things. He just didn't think about it. It wasn't important to him. And so
Exactly.
that was a kind of a big discovery. And I was like, oh, as much as I like him and I'm attracted to him, I know down the road, when a few of those things wear off, I'm going to be the one sitting here sad and lonely, right? Because none of those things are
Yes.
matching up.
So see how you said that, and this is the beauty of all these. I call them tools because
Hmm.
attachment styles. I'm glad we're all talking about it, but a lot of people define themselves by it, and they can
Yes.
change depending on who you are. They're tools to create self-awareness and understand yourself more.
Mm.
So you just said it. So, and I love that you said, if could I put up with that in the long term of not of
Yes.
being with someone that can't touch me?
Hmm.
That is super smart, because we convince ourselves, you know what? No, it's okay. I'll be
Yeah.
fine. I'll be fine. And then people end up in these relationships 2, 4, 5, 10 years later, where they're
Hmm.
not getting something that they actually compromised themselves on the beginning. And the partner's like, you could be blaming your partner saying, you never touch me. And he's like, well, you knew this from the beginning that I'm not a
Yes.
toucher. But I also want to say that, as important as it, when you understand how that matters to you, these tools are also an ability for you to, one, communicate it. And
Hmm.
it's not to say that someone doesn't know how to touch can't develop to learn how to
Hmm.
touch, right? So I
Yep.
want to also say that it's
Hmm.
important to make sure that um it's because we tend to give the way we want to receive.
Yes.
So when you understand what your love languages are, it's
Hmm.
perfect. It doesn't mean that the other person will be able to give them to you the way you want to receive them. Hence the
Okay.
example of physical touch.
Yes.
However, with time, if you're open to communication and you're open to working on things together, he could potentially, even knowing that that's what you need, work
Mhm.
on it and figure out the ways that you need it, and you develop that muscle, right?
Yes.
So it's
It's
when
not a
people
lost
aren't.
cause.
No, it's not a lost cause.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I'm taking the time to say it because you could have probably met someone that it's, I don't know, 95% of everything that you're looking for,
Yeah.
but doesn't have that little piece.
Yeah.
But if he's open to it and he
Yes.
realizes it and has the willingness to say, you know what, let me work on it, you also need to give them time to develop that muscle.
Oh, I like it. That's the catch. You're right. You're right.
That's the catch. And I'll give
Yeah.
another example that I think a lot of people will relate to is vulnerability. So for me, in my journey, one thing I realized, because I was a type A, self-reliant, independent, I left home very young. One of
Mm.
my issues too was not making room to receive. I was always managing, controlling. So my heart wasn't open. As much as I was looking for love and desperate to be in love, my heart
Yeah.
was fully bricked wall, fully
Yes.
bricked wall. And my roommate at the time said, Chantal, you know, if you can't be vulnerable with your own close friends, how the hell do you expect to be vulnerable in a relationship one day?
Wow.
And that was a true aha moment for me where I was like, oh my God,
Mm.
she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So then I asked myself, okay, I need to work on this vulnerability component. How do I start
Mhm.
developing a muscle that I've never had?
Yeah.
So I decided that I would talk to a friend. I told her what I was going through and what I wanted to work on. So I told her what I needed. I said, when I'm going to call you to share and be vulnerable, I just need you to listen. I don't want you to judge me, give me advice unless I ask you. I don't even want you to try to fix it. Nothing. I just need you to hold space for me.
Yeah.
And that took 6 months almost for me to make that first phone call to say, and this is one of
Wow.
my best friends,
Oh my
say, I'm
gosh.
going through this and I need to talk about it. So
Yeah.
because it's something that I hadn't been doing for most of my life.
Yeah.
So you also need to allow yourself the time to actually develop the muscle. It's like that six pack, right? Unless you're
Yes.
born naturally with it, which is a very small percentage of the
Yeah.
population, you need to work at building that muscle, that six pack. And once you've hit that six pack, you also need to maintain it because you'll
Yes.
lose it.
Yes.
So that 6 months thing, it took almost a year. And then, you know, after that, I was like, oh, this is actually really nice being able to talk through stuff and I don't need to deal with everything on my own. So
Yeah.
one friend went to a second, went to a third. And then I was like, I'm going to try to integrate this at work as well. Because here's the thing, when we have a muscle that's lacking, it often shows up in different areas of our lives other than in
Yeah.
romantic relationships. And it's where can I apply it before I get into romantic
Oh,
relationships? Because romantic
good.
relationships is where we're always challenged the most, right?
Yeah.
That and family dynamics.
Yeah.
So then it was like, okay, I don't know how to do this. I need help. So
Mhm.
what happened, and this was almost 6 to 8 years when I did get into my relationship, my vulnerability channel in my heart was actually open
Yeah.
and able to receive the kind of man. And he's a very, you know, he's an old school man. So for him, it's very important to protect and take care of and provide for his woman.
Mm.
And I was
That's
able to
so
receive it.
hot, isn't it? That's hot.
So hot. I'm not gonna lie. I would
I
never
know.
go back to that old way. And it's such a beautiful thing to be able to be in relation and not, again, just romantic, although we're talking about my romantic relationship, but
Yeah.
being in a space that you feel so safe,
Yes.
so protected, so taken care of. Someone has my back, that I don't have to do anything on my own ever again, but I
You
needed to develop that muscle.
Yeah, you're giving me goosies because just here, because that is exactly what I used to say this. I would be like, when somebody would say, what are you looking for, man? I'm like, tall and muscles and great pecs. That's the thing you think of. Now, I still want all of those things. But for
Yeah.
me, it became the safety, the security, somebody's got your back. Everything you just said, that's why it gave me like, ooh, because
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
hot.
I would say that's the true meaning of love that I've
Yes.
discovered. Like I never thought I did experience, is just being in that safe space.
Yeah.
I feel so much peace.
Yeah.
So much
Oh, I
peace.
love it. Oh my gosh, I love that. So speaking of the true meaning of love, I noticed on your website that you stated that this was not an easy answer for people. When you asked this question, you asked, what is love? So
Yeah.
what kinds of answers did you get? Like, and what's your answer in that opinion? We just kind of talked about the true meaning from your side.
Well, it's funny because that's how my whole that's how I started writing my program that I teach, and the book was asking
Yeah.
myself that question. And when I realized that it was hard for me to answer, having been studying and interested in the whole topic for,
Mm.
25 years, I was like, how the hell does the average person answer that? And when I started doing these table talks, because I was doing research for the book and the program to understand what people were really looking for and lacking when it came to love, dating, and relationships. And I
Mhm.
asked that question, it was people would always make it about other people.
Mm.
Nobody ever made it about themselves.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I'm not saying that there's right or wrong, but there's love has many different layers and it shows up in many different ways. And when we think of love, we often think about it in romantic relationship only. That's the common
Yeah.
denominator that, kept coming out, or love of our children, for people
Mhm.
that are parents and that had kids. So those were the two that kept coming up. And that was also an aha moment for me, because I realized through my own journey, to be able to be in a very solid, healthy relationship, the relationship starts with yourself.
Yeah.
You can only attract what you feel you deserve. So if
Ooh, good
your
line.
level, yeah, if your level of love, of self-love is not high, how are you going to attract a high level quality
Mm.
match? So that was my thing. I until like 4 months prior that I met Jeff, I realized that was the last piece of the puzzle that man gave me, was I had self-worth issues. I didn't believe that
Oh,
I was deserving of the type of man I wanted to be with.
yeah.
So if your mind and your heart aren't aligned, you're not going to
Yeah.
attract it. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
wow. Okay.
yeah.
I don't feel deserving of this. How, of course it's not happening. It
Yeah.
can't happen. So I
Yeah.
changed my narrative of how I looked at things. And so love for me is a lot of what we just talked about too. It's
Mhm.
that feeling of peace inside.
Mhm.
And as much as I love my relationship and I love my man, tomorrow, God bless, anything would happen to him or us in a relationship, I
Mhm.
have so much self-love for myself that I know that I would stand on my own and not have an issue in, continuing my journey, because I didn't
Wow.
get lost in relationship. And I think a lot of people get lost in their relationship because they forget who they are. And
Yeah.
that's why the more self-love you have for yourself, the more
Yeah.
self-awareness you allow yourself to have, the better your dating journey will be, because you
Mm.
will listen to who you are, respect
Mhm.
yourself enough, as I said at the beginning, to not compromise your needs, to not, to hush, to dissipate that little voice that's coming in when your intuition speaks and says, you know what, this is not no, 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 run, run.
Yes.
But
Yes.
no, I'm going to stay. I'm going to fix him. I'm going to try to make this
Right.
work. I want this. And, so the power, because it sounds tacky, because self-love has been, again, it's like spirituality, one of these trendy words like boundaries and stuff. But what does it actually really mean?
Yeah.
It's this.
Yeah.
Love yourself enough to friggin' honor who you are, not disrespect your needs. Listen to your voice, be able to communicate your boundaries, listen to your voice, and stay true to who you are. Don't try
Yeah.
to become someone that you aren't to please or be liked.
Yes. I heard a funny line this week that someone said, I know my self-worth, but sometimes it goes on sale.
Ah, I love that. I love that.
Isn't
And
that
yes,
great?
it does.
And it's true. We do, I think deep down, we do all know what we're worth. And, it is just that it does go on sale. And maybe we let it go up to 80%
Yes.
off when we really should just be like, taper it back, give yourself a little bit of room, and do a 10%
Yes.
off sale
Yes, as
instead.
one of my mentors says, she's like, Chantal, the inner critic has a full-time job.
Oh,
That little shit never takes a day off, so you don't
yeah.
need to feed it. So I think we need to be very kind to
Oh, I like
ourselves.
that. I
Yeah, I
like
love that
that.
too.
Yes.
And you're right on the self-worth piece, because we all suffer from it, no matter where
Yeah.
you're from, where, even and there's a massive difference between self-love, self-confidence, and self-worth, right?
Mhm.
You can be very self-confident and not have a lot of self-worth for yourself.
Yes.
So you can fall off the wagon for different reasons or different
Yeah.
areas of your life. That's why I always say, like, never stop growing, learning, listening to podcasts like these. Because even for me, sometimes when I was going through my motion this year of starting my own business, launching my book, and it's just, you
Mhm.
can suffer from the imposter syndrome where,
Mhm.
do I feel worthy of actually being seen, being heard? Do I have
Yes.
enough knowledge? So it's like, oh, doop, 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 doop. I catch myself, I just grab
Yes.
myself, hold myself to a safe space and say, it's okay. It's okay.
Yes. Well,
So
you're doing
yes, thank
great
you
so
for
far,
sharing
my
that.
dear. I
Well,
love
thank you.
everything you have to say so far. I eat it all up because, and I have different relationship coaches on for this reason, just to kind of get different perspectives of
Yes.
stuff. I've had men on, also as women, just to kind of see what, but everybody's consistent with the self-love, the self-worth,
Exactly.
all of those things. None of those have changed. So
Yes.
that's huge.
They're fundamentals. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you talked about before about you being emotionally unavailable at one point, insecure, having those thoughts all the time. I do that all the time when they don't respond and you immediately
Mm.
go to the negative, right? Oh, they're not into me. They're not going to show up, whatever. When in fact, they're just busy. Like you said, they're not even
Exactly.
checking things.
Exactly.
So what little things can you tell us? I know you did a lot of different things to kind of get yourself into this path. You changed your narrative. Do you have any specifics that you can share with us of things that maybe you did to go from unemotionally available to a secure attachment style, if you will?
So it was a long journey and a series
Mhm.
of different things. But again, for me, the one piece, it's the self-awareness.
Yeah.
Why do you act the way you do? Why do I get triggered the way I do? Why do I react the way you do?
Mhm.
If you can understand and respond to those questions, and this
Mhm.
is applicable to any area of your life, and
Mhm.
say, oh, for example, my anxious attachment style is surfacing again, for example, or I was an avoidant for most of my life, right?
Okay.
I was protecting myself, so
Yeah.
I would
The
run even
abandonment.
though I
Mhm.
thought I'm a commitment phobic.
Yeah.
So I had to ask myself the questions, where is this coming from? Hence why you need to understand the root of why you are the way you are. And
Mm.
this is all related to childhood. So I invite people to really go visit, how were you raised with your parents? What were the values that you were instilled? What was the relationship you saw your parents have together? What was the
Mhm.
relationship with your dad as a woman? What was the relationship
Mm.
with your mother as a man? Because when we talk about mommy daddy issues, it's a true thing. It's like
Yeah.
these are the things that we see between the age of 0 and 7. Our minds are not programmed. We're just we don't think for ourselves yet. So we're in hypnosis mode. We're observing what's happening to us, and we are getting
Right.
all these beliefs. Don't do this, don't cry then. You're not allowed to eat this. You shouldn't be doing that. So
Mhm.
you grow up, by the time you're 7 and start having and creating your own mind, everything has been decided for you,
Wow.
including how you show up in relationship or
Yep.
the dynamic. So it's really important. So I needed to understand. That was the first one, because it gives you so much information and insight
Mhm.
why you are the way you are. I didn't
Mhm.
realize how my dad that I wasn't I my dad died when I was 2. I didn't
Wow.
realize the impact it actually had on me for someone
Yeah.
I didn't know. I really didn't get
Yeah.
to know him.
Yeah.
So I would say that was the number one thing, is understanding and starting to dig there.
Mhm.
And then I would journal a lot um, on answering those questions when I would get triggered. And why is this really bothering me? It's not even
Mhm.
about the person I'm dating. It's really my old shit that's coming up. And I'm
Mhm.
reacting this way because. So those are the things that really transform myself to be able to show up in relationship, and not again just in my romantic relationship, but with my friendships
Across
and
the
my
board.
family dynamics, where I'm just like, I know myself so well.
Mhm.
And I would say 98% of the time when we face a situation that we're being triggered or reactive, or something's not working, it's our old stuff that's coming up.
Yeah. Trying to rear its ugly head. Yeah.
So it's, I still have control issues. I will always
Yeah.
have control issues. They're
Yeah.
part of me, but it's how quickly now I know how, when, let's say I had planned a certain thing with my man and he gets home late and he decides to go somewhere else versus what I planned. I get like,
Yeah.
and then I can understand. I'm like, it has nothing to do with him. It's just things aren't going the way I wanted, the way I planned it, and the way I need to make them happen. So I can
Yes.
catch myself on my own bullshit.
Yeah. A lot sooner than you probably ever could before.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
it's honestly it's
Mhm.
it's the hardest part, but it's the most rewarding and it's what will give you the most power is
Yeah.
that self-awareness component thing.
Mm.
And use these that toolbox. So, learning about attachment styles, 5 languages of love,
Mhm.
learning about, exactly why how everything is rooted from childhood. These
Yeah.
are all the little toolbox that I call that help me get to being from an avoidant
Yeah.
to secure, because in my case, as an avoidant, my heart was closed.
Yeah.
So I needed to work on opening my heart, which one of
Mhm.
the things too was that vulnerability piece.
Yeah. That's huge for you. Yeah.
So again, self-awareness, you can identify why you're showing up the way you do or not in your relationships.
Mhm.
Identify those behaviors, those
Mhm.
beliefs, those core beliefs, those patterns that you have. And I always say I would start with like 3 to 5 of them and
Mhm.
start working. Who who do I need to become going forward in these relationships to not retract to my old ways?
Mm.
So in my case, vulnerability was a big one. I need to be open. I need to have an open heart. I need to learn to receive and make room for someone to take care of me
Yeah.
instead of me always managing things. And I do that with
Interesting.
friendships as well now because I had a little bit of a breakdown at the end of last year, just over questioning myself. And as I was working through a coach, because I still believe you can't do everything alone. And it's great to be able to work with someone that can navigate you through your own
Yeah.
self-talk. And I realized that I was still telling my stories sometimes of I used to have to do everything on my own, but that was
Mm.
the old me. I've
Yeah.
created now a new life where I don't need to do anything alone at all, actually. I
No.
don't I can ask at any given time. It's
Yeah.
just the old narrative that sometimes can surface again.
Yeah.
So, but
Interesting.
these are they
Oof.
take time.
Yes. And putting in the work, putting in the
And
work.
yeah, but they
Right.
really, really pay off. They
Yeah.
really pay off.
Wow. Great answer. So what kinds of, I think I saw on your website, you talked about 4 relationship green flags that
Yes.
actually turned out to be red flags. If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, right? Did I say that right? So
Green flags that actually turned out to be red flags. Yes.
yeah.
So there's a big trend right now with red flags and
Yeah.
green flags, and I think
Yeah.
it's very easy for us if we don't do that inner work and knowing ourselves, or to kind of like, oh, that's a red flag, and dismiss the
Yeah.
person without knowing them or why they react the way they are. Again, as I was saying, it's like two people coming together and we have all these expectations of people
Yeah.
that don't even know who we are,
Right.
and people show up in different ways because of their baggage.
Yes.
So it's important to just learn to ask the proper questions, read in between the lines, and
Mm.
something like a green flag where you're thinking, for example, I'm trying to think here. That would be like you start dating and they're like really into you and they're adapting super quickly to everything that you love. Oh, I love this, I love that too. And they're just accommodating you all the time.
Yeah.
For me, that could potentially be, and you think, oh, wow, this is so great. This person is so easygoing. But it could potentially be disguised as a red flag where the person is literally compromising who they are as a person. They're
Yeah.
dismissing their own, their own person just
Yep.
to please. So in long-term relationship, how that could show up is that as soon as you decide to go do, I don't know, hang out with your boys or go hang out with the girls for the weekend,
Yeah.
your partner loses their shit because where are you going? You can't leave me alone for the weekend.
Yeah.
What do you mean? So that's an example. Another one would be like constant need for communication. At the beginning, we're always excited, so we're exchanging messages every day, and oh my God, and I see this all the time with some of my clients is that, yeah, but at the beginning he was texting me like 5 times a day.
Yeah.
Well, I always say, that's a red flag
Don't set that
because
expectation.
exactly. And it's not sustainable in the long
Yes.
run.
Yes.
So again, we get caught up in the romance and the Disney side thing. So it's like,
Yeah.
ask yourself, can this be sustainable for the long run?
Yes.
Right? So slow it down.
Yes. And that's a really important thing, because I am big on liking when somebody, when they do text with the good morning text or the good night text, I think that's super sweet, taking the moment to do that. Then I once read somebody was like, okay, but how simple is that to do? And how do you know they're not doing it to 10 other people? They're sending that quick text. So you really are looking for the things that are more specific to you, that they go out of their way to do, in that sense, rather than those little things. And I also found that when they would do that, they start out hard and fast doing a text every morning. Now I become to expect that text. And the moment they don't, I get into my own head, oh, they don't like me anymore. They don't want me anymore.
Correct.
When in fact,
Correct.
it's just not sustainable. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And these good mornings, you said it, it's like easy. And
Yeah.
not to say that it's not nice to get, but how
Yeah.
does somebody show up in action with the rest? Is he like
Mhm.
sending good mornings, but never planning to actually meet you in person or following up on like the
Yes.
next date, right?
Hmm.
Is he asking other questions like how was your weekend when you knew that you were away for the weekend traveling with your family or whatever? So
Hmm.
yes, I agree. So those are
Hmm.
some examples. Also like differences in values and goals.
Yeah.
There's always controversy around this because that's saying that you don't necessarily have to have the same goals. And I
Yeah.
agree with that at a certain point. It just depends how you can support yourself as two people within your different goals.
Hmm.
And does that align at one point or not? Like, let's say, I don't know, we're in a relationship and your goal at one point is to move to Australia and I have two kids here and I can't leave the country
Yeah.
and your goal is there. Well, there's a misalignment, right? It's just like that.
Something's
So
off.
yeah, but so you have to pay attention to that and
Yeah.
believe when someone says something to you,
Believe
believe
them.
them.
Yeah.
We convince
Yeah.
ourselves that, I'll be okay. You don't want kids right now? That's fine. I can
Yeah.
wait. Like I hear this all the time. So pay attention to what someone says
Yeah.
because again, that's
It
that's
matters.
yes, it can become a massive red flag.
Yes. How do you think there's a specific timeline when you really get to know somebody? Like I've heard so many different answers to that. Oh, 5 months, 8 months, 6 months. Is there, I know there's maybe not a specific number, but really that you could say, it's great, enjoy yourself over this period of time. But remember, you don't actually know somebody until this point when they let their guard down and you see who they truly are. Do you know a kind of an area around that would be?
I find for me it's it's very different from one person to the other. And
Yeah.
again, for me, it's all about trusting who your gut.
Mm-hmm.
I knew from with Jeff from it's funny because when we had our first date and I left the first date, you know how we always have that intuition of saying yes or no? Like, yes, there'll
Mm-hmm.
be a second date. No, there won't. Or I'm into this
Yeah.
person, I'm not.
Yeah.
With me, I couldn't answer the question. It's like the energy was floating. And it was the
Yeah.
first time I've ever experienced
Oh,
that.
interesting.
So for me, it was like, okay, the universe is telling you you can get to know this person a little bit more, give them a
Yeah.
chance. So which we did. And it was a very slow burn. And like we
Yeah.
took our time. We both were like, and so we
Good
grew
for
into,
you.
but there was always consistency.
Mm-hmm.
There was always interest. There was never
Mm.
a feeling ever like, is he really into me? Or it was just easy. And
Ah, and
uh,
that's how it should be.
yes.
Yes.
So when you say right, wrong, time, follow your gut.
Mm.
Because sometimes, there's certain people that it'll take a while to have that
Yeah.
connection with, but it's again that part
Yeah.
of self-awareness. Are you
Mm-hmm.
afraid to communicate what you're looking for, you're needing, and having these conversations? Like I think especially for us, like we're over 40. We're not
Mm-hmm.
dating in our 20s and our 30s. It's a very different conversation.
Yes.
You don't need to say, oh, Maya, do we want kids? There's nothing wrong with being
Right.
straight to the point and saying what you're looking for, because we're at different stages in our lives.
Yes.
So again, if you can't have the conversations that matters to you from the beginning, why are you sticking around?
Why are you still there? I agree.
Mhm.
So on one of your Instagram posts, which I loved, your Instagram was really fun to take a look at. You talked about how to keep the spark going in a relationship. I love good spark.
Yeah.
Can you give us a couple tips on that? Some things that people can do to kind of spice it up a little.
It's funny because whenever I talk about this topic, sometimes people are like, that's it.
You're like,
And
it's
I'm
that
like,
simple.
well, it is. So there's two things that I talk about in one of the chapters of the book, which is the fundamentals to succeed in the long-term relationship. And two of them is kindness and thoughtfulness.
Mm.
And when I say these two words, what does that do to you?
It gives me a sense of peace. Just
Yeah.
feels nice.
Yeah. So when someone is thoughtful or
Mm.
kind to us, it makes you feel happy. It activates
Yeah.
what I call that oxytocin and serotonin levels. So we actually take for granted the power of those two things that are the smallest things. And I give an example. It's like my man's always last minute. He runs late all the time. So I could wake up in the morning. He's like, oh my God, I don't have time to make my coffee. I have to go to my meeting. So I could say, you know what? Put your alarm clock on earlier, get your shit together. Or I actually go and I make him a coffee because I know it'll make his life. That's thoughtfulness. That's kindness. So they're the smallest little gestures. And I always say, you ask yourself this question in your relationship. And I often do this on a daily basis because, again, it's a muscle that people need to work on and develop.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what do I know that I could do that would make my partner happy that I never take the time to do?
Mm.
Simple as that. Simple as that. Maybe it's actually, cook dinner for the kids. Maybe it's actually empty the dishwasher and take the garbage out instead of her, bitching at me to take it out. Maybe it's about planning a date night. So that's the first one, because what it does when you practice the circle between the two of you, it keeps that spark alive.
Oh, yeah.
It's keep that sparks alive. And we're like, because when somebody is kind to you, you're just like, oh,
feels so good that they care about my well-being as well.
Exactly. And that is intimacy. Intimacy and you need intimacy in relationship to keep the spark going, especially us as women, because when we feel safe and we're not stressed, we're not in our heads. So if you're getting that from your partner, it just, like, I'm talking about it right now, and I feel like the flinger in my cookie, like, ooh,
we're
so
getting
excited.
a little fanny flutters. I knew she liked me.
Yes, exactly. There you go. There's heat going on. And then I would say things like it's important to have connection time on a weekly basis. So when I talk about connection time, it's not necessarily a date night. It can be as short as 15 minutes, a half hour. And it's like, there's no distraction. There's no phone. It's you and your person. And you're just like checking in. How was your week? What's going on with you? Anything that you need to talk about and vent about. And it cannot just be about yourself in the relationship. It's about what's happening. So we typically do this Saturday mornings in bed. We'll have our coffee in bed and we do this. And see, we haven't done it now in 3 weeks because I've been away traveling a lot. And I'm disconnected. I'm completely disconnected. So there's a lot of power in that short amount of connection time. It's like I feel connected to my partner. I know what's going on. I know what's happening in his head, why he's being the way he isn't, or, so
I love that idea.
And so it could be a walk, it could be whatever that is. It's just short, sweet, and but it's just presence between the two of you. And then the other thing that I find that keeps a spark going is doing different things to get you both out of your comfort zone. So what that does is that because sometimes when people have been in a relationship you don't have anything to talk about anymore. It may be because you're always doing things together. You're always doing the same things. So when you do something outside the box, you both rediscover things about your own selves. And then that creates conversation and it creates a new experience. And it's creating fun. When you're dating at the beginning, what do? You do a bunch of different things to impress each other, to seduce each other. So go back to the initial dating period. And the other thing I really like that I find keeps the spark going a lot is weekend getaways, like a short trip getaway where, again, there's no distraction. And then you can just plan a bunch of little things that are thoughtful.
Those are my favorite. I love those. The best times.
Definitely.
Some of the best times.
Yeah. And then the last thing I would say is invest as a couple in at least once a year in something that you can grow together as a couple.
Mm.
So, taking a workshop,
Mm.
doing a self-development, whatever.
Yeah.
I love Tantra, especially if you've been in long-term committed relationships. It's just
Yeah.
a great way. Sex is like love. There's
Yeah.
so many layers to it that we've just been taught one part about it.
Yeah.
And that can really reignite
Yeah.
spark as well in your relationship.
Absolutely. So speaking of like seminars and webinars and all that kind of stuff, you have a great networking business that combines seminars with a glass of wine. And it's called
Yes.
Let's Wine with Love. I love it. I love it. What a great title. Tell us a little bit about that so people can know more about it.
Yes, I love these because being in the wine business for 20 years, I was
Uh-huh.
like, how can I combine these two passions that I have, love
Brilliant.
and wine? And I mean, at the end of the day, in my business, it was always very socially demanding. I mean, I'm always entertaining. So,
Yeah.
and when we're breaking bread and drinking wine, we always end up talking about what?
Love.
Love in our relationships. So
Yes.
I came up with the concept where wine is the excuse, and I do a bunch of little seminars to help us learn more about how to navigate your journey to love. So it's
Yeah.
everything from how to communicate. It always depends on the audience and who's there, but it's how to, for drinking sparkling wine, it's how to keep the bubbles going into your long-term relationship.
Yeah.
So it's about helping people learn how to be a little bit more conscious in their relationships, as we've never been taught those skills.
Yeah.
And eventually there'll be mingling events for people that have done the work, that are looking for people that have, that level of quality of consciousness to
Yeah.
come together. So I do these corporately. I do these. I've been doing them in Canada right now, but my
Yeah.
mission is to take those out on the road. So
Wow, that's amazing. It sounds great. It sounds right up my alley. I love that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit more about your book before we go. You've got this wonderful book called Raising Your Love Signal.
Yes, Raise Your
Love
Love
it.
Signal, a guide
Yes.
to attracting and keeping the love of your life.
Yes.
So one of the things that I wanted to do with this book is make it a book that was excessively easy to read and go
Yes.
back to, because when we're talking about these topics, it can be very overwhelming. We can, and we talked a lot about deep stuff today, and the work sometimes is hard because we're
Yeah.
just like, we have to really look at ourselves, and we're not always ready to look at ourselves.
Yeah.
So no matter where you are in your journey to love, there's something for you in here. And when we talked about earlier too, creating that toolbox, it's literally the best tools that I've learned over the last 20 years, that it's a little bit of here and there. And I'll give you the best example of what I mean with my book.
Please.
When I used to ask questions about whatever to anybody, my girlfriends would always say, "Did you Google it?" And I said, "No, I didn't Google it," because when I Google something, all this shit comes up.
Yes.
I don't know what's right, what's wrong. I don't know, and then you have to search. So it gets overwhelming. It's kind of like shopping in a department store versus a boutique for me. I get overwhelmed.
Yes.
So I wanted to narrow all of that stuff down to really give you the best of a little bit of everything that I've learned.
Oh.
So that's what this book is really all about. So that's why it's a easy read, and wherever you are, you'll learn something.
Yes.
I remember my vision was like, somebody could be sitting in a waiting room and just pick it up and read a page and say, "Oh, I didn't think about this. I didn't think about that." And
I
just
love
get
stuff like that.
out of it.
Yes. I really love stuff like that because I'm not an overly good reader over a long period of time. I tend to doze off. My mind wanders. I have to go back and reread.
Yes.
So I am really enjoying things that are just little excerpts, small things, hit you right where you need it, kind of stuff. So I can't wait to read your book. It sounds amazing.
And I did these little exercises that are like a recap with some exercise of self-reflection that you can do afterwards.
So journaling type thing almost, where it gets you to do and really actually put things into play.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
That's huge.
So available on Amazon. If you go on my website at www.raiseyourlovesignal.com, you can find all the different places that you can purchase it. I mean, Amazon's the easiest, but there's Barnes and Nobles, Indigo if you're in Canada. And
amazing. And what about any of your social media handles? Anything you want to say for people to find you?
Yes, the platform I'm the most active on right now is Instagram. So it's
Okay.
my name, Chantal.Landreville on
Oh, you said
Instagram. You
it so
can
much better than I did it.
my
You have
French
the
roll.
French going, je parle en français. No, that's
She's like,
great.
no.
No, let's end that real quick before you start trying to talk to me in it. But
Yes.
I'm sorry, I interrupted it. Say it again.
Chantal.Landreville. And then I'm on TikTok. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. I also have a private Facebook group as well, that all under my name, that you can find me. But the easiest way is probably shoot me a DM on Instagram, and I'll be happy
Yes.
to give you what it is that you're looking for.
Perfect. So before you go, I like to do a little from Mrs. to Ms. fun facts. Would you rather questions? It's just 10 easy questions just to kind of see what you think. You ready?
Ready?
Ready. Number one, would you rather have a partner who surprises you with grand romantic gestures or one who consistently shows small, thoughtful acts of love? I know your answer. We just talked about this.
Exactly. Number two, for sure.
I should write these after we have our conversation. I'd know a lot and I'd really get you. Okay. Number two, if on a deserted island, would you rather sunset skinny dip or midnight beach bonfire?
Oh, sunset skinny dip for sure.
Sunset skinny dip.
Yes.
Number three, would you rather have the ability to see 1 year into the future of any potential relationship or possess the power to read your date's mind during your first date?
Oh, yeah, probably read minds
On
and the first
date.
dates.
Because
Yeah.
I think you can then gauge on what the potential future is. I think, right? If they're, if you hear them going,
Yeah.
I'm not into her, you're like, I already know. I don't need to know about the future. Number four, would you rather be in a long distance relationship with someone you deeply love and trust, or in a close relationship with someone you have doubts about?
Oh, definitely the long distance.
Long
I think
distance.
that when there's trust, and because I've been in that situation, when there's trust,
Yeah.
long distance relationship and safety, that can definitely work.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge. Trust is the currency of love.
Mhm,
So, blindfolded surprises or playful role play?
Oh, playful role play.
Number six, would you rather have the ability to read your partner's mind during sex or be able to control their sensations with just a touch?
Oh, control the sensations to touch. Yeah.
Just a touch. That
Yeah.
would make it so much easier, I think, for us if we're like, oh, I only got a few
Yeah.
minutes. Let's get that in. Okay, ready? And go. There we go.
Yes,
That would be
agreed.
my kind of deal. Number seven, soft whispers or lingering touches.
Oh, can I pick both?
You can. I'll let you do
Both.
both. Both good. Number eight, would you rather have the ability to instantly know if someone is lying to you about their feelings or have the power to make anyone you're attracted to fall in love with you instantly?
I think neither, to be honest, because
They don't sound good.
I can read people. I
Oh,
know,
you
I just
can.
know it. Yeah,
That's
it's my
good.
intuition is very, very strong.
Yeah.
And then I would never have to force someone
Yeah.
to
Great
like me.
answer. I love that. Number nine, slow dancing in the living room or spontaneous dance moves in the kitchen.
Oh, spontaneous dances in the kitchen. Yeah.
And the last one, number 10, trying new positions or mastering the classics.
I'm trying new stuff. I'm
New
like
stuff.
curious. I always love trying. So
Yeah.
yes, trying. Yeah.
The spark going
Yeah.
there. Oh,
Yeah.
good answers. Those are all good answers. Thanks for playing. I always get surprised in what I hear. Most of the time I know based on the conversation before how people are going to go, but sometimes they surprise me
Surprise.
every once in a while. So goodness, thank you so much for coming on. This was such a fantastic conversation and hopefully so valuable to the audience. So I really appreciate you coming on. I'm glad we were finally able to match up on our calendars to make this happen. It was well worth the wait.
Yeah.
So if there's anything else you'd like to leave the listeners with, by all means, take the stage.
Last words of wisdom. Don't give
Yes.
up. If you are out there and you are either still single looking for love, or if you are in relationship in a toxic, nothing healthy, seek the help. And
Yeah.
when I say help, it doesn't mean, therapist or coach. It's like there's so many amazing resources out there,
Yeah.
but learn and do things differently than what you think you had, and really work on that self-awareness component piece that I said, because the answers really do lie within.
Yes.
They really do, because nobody knows you like you do. And I
Yes.
would say it's unbelievable in the conversations that I still have with the average person today that they actually don't know
Don't.
themselves. They really, really don't.
Mhm.
And that's the key for you to be in power, not only in relationship with others, but with yourself.
Mm.
And that's where you want to be. The more you give yourself that self-love to be in, the more you know yourself, the more you will be able to give the best of who you are
Yeah.
yourself first, and then
And the others.
the level of quality of people that you will attract will be very different.
Beautifully said.
Excuse me.
Yes, that's perfect. Well, thank you so much once again for joining me. I hope that you, the listeners out there, got all the information you want. I know it is a wealth of information. So just take it all in and learn it as you go and try to apply it. That is the key, is to apply it. So thank you guys once again for listening. This is Andrea with From Mrs. to Ms. You can find me on any major streaming platform, any social media at from.mrs.to.ms. And we will see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Yay! Oh, I'm not
Amazing.
stopping it. I'm not stopping it because I got to get the good stuff. That
All
was
right.
fun. That was fun,
Yes.
right? Yay.
Yes.
That was so good.
And
As I was going through the questions, I was like, my next three ones we had already talked about. So I was like trying to read down, like, where am I going next to the next one?
we kind of went,
I love
it's-
that though.
yes,
To me, it just flows better. I try to like listen to what you're saying and ask questions. I am very curious all the time about the details of stuff. Well, what did you say to do this? All those little things. So thank you for going along on that with me. That's
pleasure.
great.
My pleasure. So I'm going to give you your little testimonial now.
I love it. I'll
Yeah,
shut
all
up.
right.
If it's bad, let me turn. Wait, no, okay, go. I'm just
No.
kidding.
Yeah, I'm going to say, by the way, don't do it.
I know. That's why I'm always afraid to ask. Like, I'm like, is that right to ask them to do it right away? When you were like, should I just give it later? Because if they're like, it was bad, I guess I'll just sit here.
No. So it's
Okay.
Mrs. to Miss, right?
From Mrs. to Ms.
From Mrs. to
Mrs.
Miss,
to
which
Ms. Yeah.
Ms.
Meaning Ms. So married to divorced. Yeah.
Married to divorce. From
Mhm.
I'm actually probably not going to say it. Just do you want me to say it?
Yeah. If you can. Yeah. That would be,
From Mrs. to Ms.
you got it.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. Perfect.
And do you want me to name myself?
Yes, please. Yeah. Just say who
Okay.
you are, what you do, that you did this, you just did a podcast with Andrea, the host of From Mrs. to Ms., and just how you felt it went. Nothing long,
right,
15
perfect.
to 30 seconds.
Amazing. Okay. Hi, my name is Chantal. I am an author and a certified love and relationship coach. I just finished an incredible episode with the beautiful Andrea from the Mrs. to Ms. podcast. I have to say my experience was awesome because not only does she have great listening skills, but her questions are really well thought of, research, and she does her due diligence, making the conversation that flows purposeful and intentional. Thank you, Andrea. That good?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Thank you so much. I love it. You're my first one to do it. So thank you. I just think
There you go.
I know I'm trying to take notes from different, stuff and find out. And they're like, that tends to, you can put it out there. And when other people are, do I want to go on? And then they can go on and listen. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I do,
Yeah.
So just about growth. So thank you. That was perfect.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So you were married
Yeah,
prior?
20 years. 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was married for 20 years, but I got married young at like 24, just turned 24. I was pregnant. So just kind of went into that. And I just, I think I knew it from the beginning that it wasn't necessarily my life partner, but it seemed right at the time, had another kid. And then after like 10 years is when I really think I started like, I'm just not feeling it. He was more like a friend, like a great best friend. And my kids are kind of in the entertainment business. So my younger son had gone on tour at a very young age for a group called Kids Bop. They like sing and dance and all this stuff. But so at a very young age, and my ex-husband went with him all the time. And he wasn't working. I was paying for everything. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm paying for everything. He's never here. I'm not really in love with him anymore. I think he's a great guy. And so I just finally went for it. So yeah, 2017 got divorced and just been dating, and
What do
It's
you find
hard.
difficult?
Probably the most are emotionally unavailable and they don't admit that up front. So they try to pretend like they're not. And then all of a sudden, I start falling for them and then they're like not really looking for an actual commitment or relationship. I had a relationship with one guy for a little over 2 years that ended in August, and older man, an attractive man. And he needed, I don't know if it was maybe abandonment issues, a fear of me leaving. He just always needed to talk to women on the side to get validation. Yeah. Like he talked to them still on the dating sites. He'd have that still up. Never really he wasn't going and having sex, as far as I know, meeting them. It was all just a mental thing
Yeah.
where they're telling him he's still you're so attractive,
Yeah, he needed the
this.
outside validation.
Yeah. And then he would build it up to the point of like meeting them and then just like cut them off.
And why did you put up with that?
Because I was totally insecure about myself and I didn't believe in myself. And I looked at it like, what's wrong with me? And then you're fighting harder to make him want you more. And then finally it was my birthday and I found out he had a date planned for the next day with another woman. Oh yeah. This is in August, after I throw a major birthday party for him, all these things. And I'm just like, I think I knew that was coming. I was waiting for that last shoe to drop or something. And I cried that day and not a day since.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
That was in August. So
it's recent.
It's been, recent. But for me, that was a long time. And then he was still lingering, coming around. And I finally just said, I don't want this going into 2024 with you, this toxicity.
Good,
and so, yeah. So it's been interesting. I'm really finding myself growing majorly at this point. A lot of times from, having these conversations throughout the podcast, they're therapeutic for me too,
Yeah,
and I'm
100%.
learning. Yeah. And interesting because I started dating this guy a week ago and he's just all in, but not in a good way for me. Like I find him very attractive. I thought there was more chemistry than compatibility, but he's kind of like, I'm like, well, you go to bed really early. I'm like a night owl. And he's like, but that's because I'm just with my dog. So I can go to bed, So now he like texts me at like 11:30 at night to show me he's still up late, little things like that. But he's already said that he's falling in love with me. 1 week.
Yeah, that's like a red flag.
That's
a red flag. That's somebody that's like codependent. So
and he's
see, this is where I would suggest call him out on that. Call him out on that. Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
I know. No, I totally did. And I had to say, because I'm here with my girlfriend for, a week in Austin. And it was just like constant texting me and telling me how much, that he's like, I love you. And I go, just don't. And then he started to replace it with, I like you. And I'm like, see, that's the same thing. And I go, you're suffocating me. You're not even allowing me time to feel anything for you. And you're taking away something that should be very exciting down the road. If you get to that point where you're like, ooh, like, let's tell each other. You've already blown your load on it in a week, in the first week. And so I'm like, and he's taken, I said I would, because I do like him. So I said, if I didn't, I'd be out already, but let's see if you can correct your behavior and just take a step back. Again, it's fun to be excited about someone, but don't mistake that for love that fast,
No, because it's that's not sustainable in the long run. And I would say, the one thing that you could consider in the dating, because I know it's frustrating and disappointing sometimes or whatever, but you're not the Andrea you were like just 5 years ago so
not at all.
As you're doing the work and you're realizing things and, building your self-worth and, getting to know who you are, you'll show up differently on how you date and won't put up with certain shit and like be more straightforward. And, so that's, I always say to people, there's another book. I have like 3 more books on the go, but the first one I always wanted to write was How I Got to Mr. Right. And it's literally the going back to all the men, the significant men I had through those meaningless relationships that brought me to where I am today and showed me, oh shit, like here I was thinking that was my person. And I looked today and it's like, what the
not even
fuck was I
close,
thinking?
right? Yeah.
So it's like, what did I need to learn? What did I need to teach maybe to this person? And how can I grow from it? And and that's why I say date to practice your skills and observe yourself versus looking for your person.
Yeah.
Date to like you observe him, you observe yourself, and you're putting into practice all those behaviors you've identified that you used to do.
Mm.
And, you know,
That's good.
now that you
Take
want
the
to rework your
pressure off of,
muscle.
I think that's what we put so much pressure on ourselves to get to that person in the
Yeah.
long run. And we forget about the journey
Yeah.
along the
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Get
good
the
stuff.
book. Get the
Get the
book.
book.
Read it.
I
It'll,
know. I
it'll
want your book,
definitely,
girl. Yeah. I'll do it. I'll do the good. That's good. I love that stuff. I do. I
yeah,
love all
because
those things. Yeah.
they're quick. I think with you where you are, you kind of catch on quickly to certain things, and it'll
Yeah.
really give you some great, like, oh shit, yes.
Oh yeah. I like the oh shit moment.
Yeah. And there's a great chapter on the dating, like how to go about dating too, and how to change your perspectives and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like, I think it'll be good for you.
Okay. I'll get it and I'll do it. And then I'll give you a review on it. I'll let you know.
Thank you. I appreciate
did.
that.
Well,
All
awesome.
right.
This was great. Thank you so much for joining me. I have quite a few bags right now. It's going to be a little bit, probably end of May, early June, probably. Yeah.
Perfect. Even better, actually. So
Great.
no problem. And
Okay.
reach
Yeah,
out if you ever need support.
Oh, I
And
love that.
help. So don't give up.
Thank you. I know. You found your joy, man. I love that. I love how you call him my man. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, because he's 61 years old. Like I
Isn't
never
that
wanted to
great?
call him my boyfriend.
I know.
And it's
How old are
just,
you?
49.
Two. Are you, so
Oh.
when's your birthday?
January 8th.
So you just turned 49.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be 50 in August.
Oh, you're a Leo.
I'm a Leo. I know.
Ah.
Gosh, damn, we look good for our age.
Honestly, and I think it's the best is yet to come. Like
Yeah.
you're in a state of, you're young enough to still have that fire,
Yeah.
but you have all that wisdom and experience,
Yes.
and you're just so, I'm in a point in my life, like I don't give a fuck what people think.
I
And
love
it's like,
that.
it's me. I get to decide what
Yeah.
I want to do, not what I should be doing, be told to do. And so it's a really nice place to be.
Yeah.
And
That's
as
great.
I said, the best is yet to come. As Oprah said, we're in the afternoon of our lives. Like it's just
Oh, yeah. So good. I know. I need to be a little bit more like that. I'm getting there. My girlfriend was saying I'm like the kindest person there. When she tells me to say things like that, I'm always like, oh, but what if, so I'm having to step out of my comfort zone and doing that. But telling that guy this week that I was like, you need to back the fuck up is what I was saying. It felt so good after.
Because you're
I feel
respecting yourself.
Yes.
You have enough love for yourself to say, I'm not comfortable with this.
Yes.
I do not want this.
Yeah.
And that's a very different vibration. So you'll start attracting different quality of men the more you do this kind of work.
Ooh.
You really will.
That
like
excites me.
Yeah, well, it does. It's like it's because you're trusting yourself, you're honoring your self-worth. Yeah, I fucking do you know how many times I was told like you're being too picky, maybe you're being too demanding and blah blah blah. And I'll always remember this was like 6 years, a year before I met Jeff, or 2 years before. I was with this woman in the wine industry, and she's in her late 50s. She's actually probably now 64. And she was like, Chantal, and she's like massive, like she does a PR firm, like really big personality. She's like, Chantal, never let anyone tell you that you're being too picky or that whatever you want. She's like, I heard that all my life. And she's like, listen, I think she met her man at like 55. And he like kisses the floor I walk on. He treats me like a queen. And, they have such a beautiful relationship. And I remember leaving that room and I was like, you know what? She's absolutely right. And here I am today. I'm like treated like a queen. And
I love it.
It's like, but I treat my man like a king too.
You do. That's right. That's right.
It's like, it's two ways. So yeah.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. Well, congratulations. I'm very excited for you. That's
Thank
so
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
That's so
Thank
awesome.
you. So when I come to California, where are you in
Find
California?
me. I'm in Woodland Hills near LA. So absolutely. Yeah, I would love that. Would love to
do
meet
a
up.
Let's Wine About Love events and those neck of the woods. So we'll be in touch one way or the other.
Please do. I love it.
All right, Andrea.
Thank you, my dear. Have a great day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.